Muy buenas tardes y gracias por conectarse al tercer y último día del SME Marketing Summit, organizado por la Asociación de Ejecutivos de Venta y Mercadeo en Puerto Rico. Me ha encantado ser su maestra de ceremonia y estoy segura de que hoy será un gran día para todos los que están compitiendo en los premios a la excelencia en mercadeo de 2020. Como saben, a través del tab de fotos estamos llevando a cabo el concurso #Los Duros del Marketing. Y el ganador será el que más likes tenga. Todavía están a tiempo de hacer networking con otros participantes y obtener su voto. Nuestro orador invitado de hoy es presentado por la Outdoor Advertising Association of Puerto Rico. Y antes de comenzar su charla, contamos con la participación de Daniel Rami, presidente de la asociación, quien nos ofrecerá un panorama del impacto que tiene este medio en nuestra isla. Le cedo la pantalla a Daniel Rami. Adelante.
Buenas tardes. Tengo el honor de presentar a Rick Robinson, socio de la firma Billups, considerado como el gurú de la publicidad exterior. Antes de continuar con Rick, quiero compartir con ustedes algunos datos muy interesantes de la industria de publicidad exterior de Puerto Rico. Nuestra industria impacta a toda la audiencia que sale de sus hogares diariamente. Entre los principales medios tenemos los billboards digitales, billboards fijos, mesh, spectaculars, publicidad en centros comerciales, baños, puestos de gasolina, entre otros. Hace no muchos años atrás, la industria de publicidad exterior se consideraba como un medio táctico que acompañaba algunas campañas de publicidad. Hoy, la publicidad exterior es parte integral del 90% de las campañas de medios de nuestros clientes en Puerto Rico. Prueba de ello es que de los 58 finalistas que hoy están en el Premio de Excelencia en Mercadeo, 48 de ellos incluyeron la publicidad exterior en sus campañas. Durante esta pandemia vimos cómo las tendencias se aceleraron en muchos aspectos sociales y hábitos del consumidor. Todos sabíamos que la tendencia de compras en línea, incluyendo supermercados, las reuniones virtuales, trabajar desde casa, educación a distancia, entre otras, se aceleraron de una manera exponencial. Sencillamente se aceleró el tiempo para muchas industrias. El out of home no está ajeno a eso. A pesar de que de los meses de marzo a junio fueron meses de mucha incertidumbre, ya para el mes de septiembre la industria volvió a sus volúmenes del año anterior. Los clientes se reactivaron, incluyendo clientes e industrias que previamente no habían utilizado la publicidad exterior. La industria ha crecido de manera sostenida en Puerto Rico en los últimos 12 años a un ritmo de 5% anual, a pesar de que sabemos que la inversión total de publicidad se ha reducido por razones económicas y de población, entre otros factores que han afectado a Puerto Rico. Según un estudio realizado por Grupo M, para el 2021 la inversión total de publicidad de los Estados Unidos, que está alrededor de $200 billones, tendrá un crecimiento negativo de 1.7. Sin embargo, los únicos medios que van a crecer en el 2021 son digital con 9.3 y el out of home con 5.4. Las tendencias y los hábitos de los consumidores han cambiado tanto que cada vez es más complejo llegar de una manera efectiva a ellos. En adición, los presupuestos de publicidad son más limitados y hay que justificar más las decisiones de este plan de medios. Por ende, el retorno de inversión de esa campaña. Ahí es donde entra en juego los costos por millar o CPM. El out of home es 78% más económico que televisión, 66% más económico que prensa y 53% que radio. Pero más allá del costo, tenemos que conocer la efectividad del medio. Según Consumer Journey, después de televisión, el out of home es el segundo medio con mayor reconocimiento o awareness. Pero, ¿qué pasa después de que el consumidor esté expuesto a un mensaje a través de un billboard o un medio de publicidad exterior? Según un estudio de Nielsen realizado en febrero de este mismo año, el 65% de la audiencia tomó acción después de estar expuesto a algún mensaje de out of home, visitando su página web para investigar información adicional del producto, visitando la tienda o posteando algo en las redes sociales para finalmente lograr lo que queremos, que es que compren el producto o adquieran el servicio. El 85% de las personas reconocen haber estado expuestas a un medio de publicidad exterior. A diferencia de otros medios, la publicidad exterior no la puedes apagar ni hacerle skip. Es un medio poderoso con alto impacto y relevancia. Somos el medio con el mejor costo por millar, de un 50 a un 80% más económico que los medios tradicionales. Somos un medio con inmediatez y flexibilidad, en el que si un anunciante desea impactar una comunidad o un área geográfica en específica, puede lograrlo en cuestión de minutos. Pero más allá de los beneficios que ofrece la publicidad exterior, lo más importante, sin lugar a dudas, es el mensaje. Ahora continúo en inglés para presentar a nuestro speaker. We all know the power of the outdoor advertising, and that really works. But the message must be relevant, personal, and must appeal the emotion of the consumers. Rick will take us a ride through the importance of the message, showing spectacular and impactful campaigns all around the world, and how advertisers adapt their campaigns to their new environment, pandemic, social movement, and more. Please welcome Rick Robinson.
Hello, everyone. It's Rick Robinson here. Hi, how are you? And of course, I'm speaking to you today from the 2020 SME Marketing Summit, appropriately titled Marketing in the Touchless Era. I'm also here on behalf of the Outdoor Advertising Association of Puerto Rico. And my talk today is titled GRAVITAS, a big, important word. So, of course, I'm speaking to you about out-of-home media. And we're going to take a little journey. Our first stop will be a quick review of the impact and sustaining power of out-of-home during COVID and our social justice era, and how this messaging has been seen all over the U.S. and globally. And then we're going to take a look at some science, and this might surprise you, or it might not, but humans prefer looking at pictures. We are inclined to easily remember and recall simple visual messaging, like out-of-home media. Then I'm going to reference something that might surprise you as well. The largest unauthorized global out-of-home campaign in history. That's right. I've got to claim, I believe we have all just experienced the largest unauthorized global out-of-home campaign in our history. And then for the balance of the presentation, I've got dozens of examples from U.S. brands showing how they're signaling recovery with out-of-home media, how they're demonstrating a belief in their product, their people, and our future. So our journey today is titled GRAVITAS. And as we get started, let's look at the clinical definition. Gravitas, a presence, a seriousness of importance of manner and form. Communication that creates feelings of respect and trust in others and with others. In other words, in my view, out-of-home media at its best. Out-of-home media when it is essential and relevant to the communities we serve. Out-of-home as the voice of our cities, speaking to the public about what's happening right here, right now. Gravitas, the sustaining power of out-of-home media and the touchless era. And it manifests in many ways, sometimes just big, right? Here in Piccadilly in London, just owning the intersection, redefining the street. And this is clearly messaging that came forth right at the beginning of COVID. And then halfway around the world in Los Angeles, the largest digital screen on the West Coast, 40,000 square feet. The screen actually weighs more than 250,000 pounds, believe it or not. But a strong message from the hospital city of Hope, speaking to a city of heroes and a city of courage, congratulating doctors, nurses, researchers, and staff everywhere. Sometimes just questioning. Simple COVID message. Who invited you? Unless your journey is essential, stay home. One dominant element, black and white, straight and to the point, no fuss, no muss. Home is also provocative. It can disrupt our expectations. I mean, look at this one. You see the king of Burger King kissing Ronald McDonald. A very sensitive kiss, too. And you wonder, what's going on? This doesn't make any sense to me. And then finally, the subhead, Love Conquers All, explains it or begins to explain it. Out of home definitely works when it disrupts our senses, when it creates intrigue and then delivers humor and allows us just to have a moment, when it adds to our space during the day. And this can happen in very provocative ways, like noted here, the king kissing Ronald McDonald, or in very subtle ways, very quiet ways, something you almost miss. This is the Black Heart campaign supporting Black Lives Matter in June and July, when this was the talk of the streets and the demonstrations were happening all over the United States in hundreds of markets. Very strong, very quiet, very subtle, but once you get it, very crystal clear. And to that end, out of home can be very poignant. This is a very famous American actor, Chadwick Boseman, who was held in very high regard, seen from the movie Black Panther. And Twitter celebrated his unfortunate passing, noted his unfortunate passing when he died recently, and just using a large-scale digital screen to give everybody a chance to reflect and be reminded of what they thought of Chadwick Boseman. Conversely, besides, triggering feelings and emotions and those kinds of things, out of home can be very practical. Here's World Finance, just offering financial help for those who need it. And further, live-fed digital screens giving updates on the stock market for those who are trying to protect their nest eggs. Along with that, just a source of news and information. Breaking news. All Louisiana bars, movie theaters, casinos required to close amid COVID-19 outbreak. More and more often, digital out of home is a source for all information for people in cities, not just commerce, but news, public safety, wayfinding, civic messages, art, hurricane warnings, FBI Most Wanted, you name it. The screens have become the screen for everything, and they tell us what's going on in our city. Here in Brownsville, sending you to the URL for updates regarding COVID-19 response measures. And then on a national level, the Out-of-Home Advertising Association of America teaming up with the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the US, to put out relevant public safety messaging, telling us to wash our hands often with soap and water, and do it for at least 20 seconds. This was all over the United States right when COVID broke, and stayed up for many weeks and 2 or 3 months, actually. And this shows the inherent purpose and utility of out-of-home media in the public space. It's also a place where brands can express their gratitude. This is for the streaming service Hulu. And they're calling out, hey, no lights, no cameras, all action, because everybody knew that production had gone quiet. No more Hollywood productions happening. No more content, really. No fresh content anyway for streaming services, but that's okay, because we're here to recognize and celebrate healthcare workers who are on the front lines. Sometimes it doesn't make sense at first what we see. What does it say? Defeated. Okay, and then if you look closely, you can see the word death, fear, and tragedy have had some of the letters covered up to reveal the word defeated. But what's that really mean? I see this big number, 25,698,082. Oh, that's recovery. Oh, this is actually a positive message. This is telling me this is how many people have recovered from COVID. Thank you. I was glad to see this, and it was worth it for me to figure it out. So when Out of Home asks a question, the public is inclined to answer it. You know, when we're out in public space, we're processing everything around us, and we want to know, is it a friend? Is it foe? Does it make sense? How does this fit into my life? And in this case, a welcome message of recovery. Another welcome message is just keeping us calm. You know, when COVID hit, there was panic buying for toilet paper and paper towels and all kinds of basic sustenance items. And the truth was, we weren't running out. We were just buying too much of it way, way, way too fast. And so a simple message from WA.gov, I think this was in the state of Washington: stop panic buying. Leave some for your neighbor. You know, without saying it, telling us we're all in it together and be calm. Everything's going to be okay. So Out of Home can impact the mood and energy and balance of a city, and it also deliver balanced messaging and encourage balanced thinking. In this case, spread facts, not fear, and the interlocking hands, really encouraging people to seek the truth and stay away from the highly politicized headlines. And this works because Out of Home is intimate. I know it's one-to-many, and it reaches millions and millions of people on a daily basis, and those mass impressions are what we sell. But the way it's consumed by somebody is one-to-one. And this example of a digital firefly top in New York is perfect for it. Because you can see the message stay apart together, then you look at the flag and, okay, these are the 50 stars for the 50 states, but they're all separated. So I get it. The more apart we are, the more we treat each other with respect and safety and keep social distance, the more together we're going to be. And you don't need a small piece of inventory to create this moment of intimacy. A large one works well too. Coca-Cola, you know, you can look at the logo on the top and look in the middle and how COCA, COLA have been separated. Same technique as the stars and the flag, and a similar message: staying apart is the best way to stay united. Now, Out of Home has all levels of these impact: big, bold, intimate, quiet, poignant, provocative, questioning, one-to-one, one-to-many, practical, relevant. All of those kinds of purposes exist, not just in the US, but all over the globe. And this was never more evident than in Tel Aviv, where this giant digital billboard on a major Tel Aviv highway, well, I'll read the translation. You are not supposed to look at this billboard. More home insulation, less coronavirus. So the traits that make Out of Home powerful in the US are the same globally. Doesn't matter where you are: South America, Latin America, the UK, Europe, Asia, Africa, the Middle East. And sometimes Out of Home can go beyond the frame and be epic in nature, almost breathtaking. And this happened recently in Rio on the Christ the Redeemer statue. Everybody knows this statue. It's world famous. And it was projected upon with a white doctor's smock, and you can see the medical device, the stethoscope, around the neck. An appropriation for sure. Acceptable in this case on this Christ the Redeemer statue, because it was about serving people and helping people and taking care of people, what doctors do, their Hippocratic oath. Epic in scale and size, and a message that reached everybody in this vast city. Out of Home, gravitas, right? It's more than a presence. I think its power, its presence, its seriousness, its scale are what serve as the foundation for our right place and purpose in the public space. And this is something that's been with Out of Home for the last 100 years and will stay with us for another 100 years. And you're right, we've been hit hard recently. Read this headline: outdoor advertising trampled in the coronavirus rush indoors. Okay, yeah, we took it on the knee, no doubt about it. But we are starting to come back. a recent headline, how COVID-19 is speeding up out-of-home advertising digital transformation. And then most recently, just a few weeks ago in the New York Times, companies see signs of hope. So things are beginning to move in the right direction. And as our economy recovers, as people learn how to live with this pandemic, out of home has its place and purpose among that ecosystem, among that commerce and how people navigate their daily lives. And the data proves this out as well. Using mobile data, we tracked whether or not out-of-home locations, and those are the dots on this map, but we tracked whether or not out-of-home locations were seeing increases or decreases in traffic since COVID. And the red is an increase. In many cases, these increases are back equal to or beyond pre-COVID numbers. You can see the West Coast is a little less, and that's because of the big recent fires on the West Coast. When the screen grab was taken, people were kind of staying indoors for a little bit, but those numbers have come back, and it's mostly red on the West Coast as well now. So besides our natural place and purpose in the ecosystem of human life, and the data proving that out, there's also human nature and science. I was going to tell you how we just like looking at visuals more than anything else. It's interesting that the human eye and the way our brain works is perfectly suited for consuming out-of-home media. And these are like millennia old, instinctive and innate ancestral powers at play. They didn't just happen for out-of-home media. Out-of-home media came to the forefront because of these conditions. And here it is. We literally have a bias towards pictorial language. And this isn't just my opinion. There's hard science. In a respected article in 2015 titled The Heterogeny of Mental Representation, two neuroscientists, Joel Pearson and Stephen Kosslyn, provide a few reasons for the brain's preference for visual communication. First, it simply requires less effort than other senses. So I'll say that again. It simply requires less effort than the other senses. So it's easier to look at pictures than do other things. Seeing just uses less mental energy. And because of this, the brain prefers to receive information visually. The brain prefers to receive information visually. So that makes vivid imagery, big pieces of out-of-home media, more easily stored in long-term memory. It makes it that much easier to recall. I mean, look, I always knew people loved out-of-home and everybody loved a great billboard. But now we have science to prove it. We have neuroscience to back it up. So the reality is that we just naturally focus on singular visual moments. Since it's, like I said, just easier for the brain to remember than, let's say, lists or facts. And because of all of this, the brain prefers to receive information visually. So not only do we have a bias towards it, not only is it easier to remember, it takes less energy to see singular visuals, but we prefer to see that. We also like things simple, straight and to the point, one idea at a time. In the end, this bias creates a more emotive and powerful connection when we consume focused and intentional visual experiences like out-of-home media. So, I think there's science now behind the why of the persisting nature of our industry. People have said, well, when digital came, out-of-home was gone. When this happens, out-of-home was gone. When tobacco left out-of-home in the US in the 90s, out-of-home was over with. The world, the media world, has warned of the end of out-of-home for decades. And now COVID's hitting out-of-home. But the point is, out-of-home will continue to persist for many, many reasons. Population growth, population density, we're visual by nature, the science that we love seeing visuals over anything else, and it's easier for us to remember those. Young people like out-of-home. The digital format allows us to be very current about what's happening right here, right now. It's just out-of-home is our instinctive way of communicating. It's that simple. And that's why I use the word gravitas to explain the power of what we do. Now, let's talk about the largest unauthorized out-of-home campaign in history. Because this bias I speak of, this visual bias I speak of, was never more evident than with the recent demonstrations and the expression of those demonstrations we saw all over the US. And these came with impromptu murals, with printed pieces of out of home. And think about this. Globally, June, July, into August, and still, millions of people, young people across the globe, took to the streets to be heard. They felt empowered. They had had enough. They were inspired. They were in it together. Whatever their motivation that got them out on the streets, they went out because they wanted to be heard and they felt it was important enough to get their voice stated, to be part of the movement. And let me ask you, what was their medium? Their medium was a mix of handmade placards and signs repeating very similar slogans. BLM, 846, I can't breathe. And together, like you see in this picture, this was effectively the largest unauthorized global out-of-home campaign in history. I'll say that again, effectively the largest unauthorized global out-of-home campaign in history. I mean, imagine the millions and millions of out-of-home media impressions this created. And that's why it was all over the news. And that's why it kept going and feeding off itself. And that's why it ended up on social media. Because humans are visual, we absorb simple messages. When we do that in abundance, it creates easy to recall emotive responses. And this phenomena, this natural state of who we are, this instinct manifested in many ways. Here's a result in Portland, Oregon. Right on front of the Apple store, you can see the Apple logo up there in the center of the screen. There was an impromptu mural serving as a community bulletin board. You can see hundreds of little placards across the bottom. Each one of those put there in place by one singular person who wanted to be heard. One person who delivered maybe 100 or 1,000 or 2,000 impressions on their own as part of this large, global, unauthorized out-of-home campaign. And there were also singular moments. This is in downtown LA. I mean, doesn't this look and feel like a billboard? The word justice in George Floyd's eyes. All of this led to dramatic and even legally authorized takeovers like this one on the Capitol Mall in Washington, D.C. for Black Lives Matter. What's fascinating here, these images were produced by average citizens, impromptu, their own time, their own money, their own effort. And this energy moved all over the country, here in front of Trump Tower in Manhattan, on Hollywood Boulevard, even in the heart of Texas. This is in Fort Worth, in front of their state capitol. People, average people, engaging in the human instinct of out-of-home media. Okay, so now what's this mean? What's this mean for brands and advertising? This is all interesting as a social studies exercise and a critical commentary. But what's this mean for our business, for media? And I'll say what happened. I think what's happened on the streets in the last weeks and months has forever changed and impacted out-of-home media. The type of messaging you'll see on the streets, the purpose for the brands to be out there. And it proved that our medium can pivot and be part of the voice of whatever's happening right here, right now, this second. Out-of-home media is urgent and essential to the communities we serve, always. It's the nature of who and what we are. Take a look. Apparel and footwear leader Brand Jordan encouraging everybody to spread the love under their Unite campaign. Similarly, Susan G. Komen fighting breast cancer. This is an impromptu hand-painting mural at a mall in Orange County. Twitter inspired to bring the voice of social media to large-scale digital out-of-home. Hire Black people, pay Black people, honor Black people. And this kind of messaging gaining its own weight and its own momentum, ultimately daring other brands to respond with fearless headlines. Read this. If you tolerate racism, delete Uber. Black people have the right to move without fear. That is powerful. I never thought I would see the day where a brand would take this kind of a stand. And of course, do it in out-of-home. You know why? You know why you do this in out-of-home? Because everyone's going to see it. Because there's nowhere to hide. Because once you say this, you've made a commitment. Out-of-home is proof of life. If you're here to signal to your audience a stance, a belief, a promise, what better place to do it in out-of-home? Because it's not going to go away tomorrow. It's there 24/7 to everyone to see. And they're going to take photos of it. They're going to share it on their social media. None of this would have happened, though, if it wasn't for the immediacy of the medium and the impact of the public response to COVID, and ultimately the desire of brands to stay relevant and be part of the conversation. All along, out-of-home proves this not only has the ability to impact public opinion, in this case, promoting hope over fear, but also to inspire us, to bring the best out in all of us, to remind us that we are in it together, to reassure us, to help local businesses, to show that we're open for business in big ways like this with big messages, or small ways like this with temporary installations, or Facebook supporting small business and telling people to go local. Neighborhood by neighborhood, businesses are beginning to pivot. Businesses are starting to understand how to do business in this touchless era. And they're using out-of-home media to signal to the public in a broad way. Here's a campaign from PayPal using out-of-home to remind everybody of the safety of their transaction process. Same goes for Apple Pay. As we pivot in business practices, out-of-home is there to remind us what's happening and what's next. And that's because out-of-home is always reflecting the spirit of our cities, including this past Labor Day. Outfront media on the New York City subways, bringing focus to the resilience of the communities there, the businesses there, and the people of New York City. So very New York. And recently providing a platform for Kim Kardashian to remind us that it's fashion that really matters. And look, it's okay to have some fun. Here's a stacked board in the meatpacking district for Skims. Is this the right time to put up fashion advertising? Is this the right time to talk about things that aren't so serious? Yeah, it is. Because life moves on. Cities move on. People find a way. And out-of-home is there to signal what's happening along the way. And after this campaign hit, there was another one recently for Paul Stewart brand, investing back into street-level out-of-home in both New York and Chicago, and more retail. This is for Fashion Optical, for Cohen's. I think this is in New Jersey. Jobs are coming back, letting everybody know that Publix grocery stores are hiring, and even responding to the trend towards home workouts. So gyms are closed. We know that, or they're very slow to reopen. People find a way, so they're starting to work out from home. And Edge Fitness saying, okay, we get it. And we're going to provide free daily live workouts, a way to stay connected to their audience, stay connected to what's happening as we adjust to the new normal. And after you do a workout and burn off some calories, what better thing to do than relax? And Deep Eddy knows this, so they used wrap trains to reassert their American-made vodka flavors. And maybe after you've had a few of their cocktails and relaxed a bit, you can jump online and go to this new online dating platform, Soul Connects, and find your soulmate. And if that doesn't work, there's Bumble, the dating app. And they decided to use out-of-home to remind people, look, it's okay to go on a dating app during COVID, and let's use humor to remind folks how to do that. And this headline, dating just got turned off and on again, should be working fine now. Further, add falling in love to the list of crazy things that happened in 2020. Lock them down after lockdown. Using images from the app and bold and humorous headlines like this one. But are they quarantine material? Meaning, playing off the riff, are they marriage material? Or are they friend material? Are they husband material? Are they wife material? But are they quarantine material? So being relevant, not hiding from the issues, and being part of what's happening on the streets right here, right now. I love this one. You can tell the grandkids you met when kissing was illegal. Right? Imagine that. These are going to be great stories to tell as COVID moves on and we get back to some semblance of a new normal. But I love this. In the end, I've seen so many campaigns about loving one another. It's interesting. Brands, people, society at large, while we're going through even some political divisiveness and tough times and uncertainty, we do want to remind each other that ultimately we're better together And we're stronger when we treat each other with respect and kindness. And it's interesting to me that out of home is often the chosen medium for that message. And again, the reason why is the same reason that Uber put together that daring headline on that painted wall, because they know everyone's going to see it. They want to put that positive message out there and take a stand. Out of home always signals what's next. In this case, contactless free delivery or curbside pickup for pizza. And if you can't get contactless free delivery, you can do curbside in all kinds of different ways. This has become the new way to transact with restaurants and retail in neighborhoods. Drive-through or carry-out options. Special deals for carry-out, half off on appetizers in this example. Or go online. Now, you know what's funny? I see so many different online brands use out of home to reach people, to remind them that they can shop from home or shop from their phone. So when they want to reach the public at large, when they want to encourage retail, they go to out of home. I would offer that out of home media is the new brick and mortar for online direct-to-consumer brands. The new brick and mortar for online direct-to-consumer brands, no doubt about it. Brands like this, Back Market, where you can buy really high-end, beautiful, top-notch electronics, but do it at super low back alley prices, meaning low-cost prices. And culture hasn't disappeared either. We can't go to the museum, but the museum can come to us. Now, here's Crocker Art Museum saying, hey, look, we'll bring it to your home. Go to the virtual online link, and you can enjoy the museum from home and inspire and be educated as culture always has for us. And out of home has also become the channel for updates on healthcare, both at the storefront and online. This is for an online doctor service called PlushCare. Now, I love this approach. Choctaw Casino and Resort. You can't go to the casino now, it's closed. So they address that head on. Binge watch now. Yeah, stay at home, watch Netflix, but bet later. So they're telling people, look, your well-being is more important to us. We're going to wait this out. But when you are done binge watching and you want to come out to the casino, we're here for you. It's okay. You can bet later. And it's all right to spoof classic out-of-home campaigns as well. I don't know how many of you know of this campaign, Chick-fil-A. For 2 decades now, they've had black and white spotted cows painting signs that say, eat more chicken, sending people to Chick-fil-A. Obviously, it's better for cows if you eat more chicken than, let's say, eat a cow. In this case, they write, eat fewer bats, riffing off the source of COVID from China and spoofing their ongoing campaign. So a very tongue-in-cheek, lighthearted way of addressing the topic of the day and also reminding people to go to Chick-fil-A. Now, Twitter, they use both static and digital out-of-home to connect with people in the public space in the simplest way, just sharing actual tweets. And this was all over major markets in the US. Here's one. I love masks. I can finally talk to myself in peace. Maybe some of us feel that way. And then on a digital barge in Miami, so is, hey, nice mask, the new pickup line? All right, think about it. You're sitting at the beach, you see this, you laugh right away. But what they've really done is get the message through. You should wear a mask, and that it's okay to wear a mask, and it's okay to play it safe. And that also Twitter is about conversations happening right here, right now. And guess what? Out of home is the best way to deliver those conversations happening right here, right now. So, hey, nice mask is a new pickup line? Yeah, it is a new pickup line. Because if you don't wear a mask, I'm going to assume your breath stinks. And if I can smell your cologne through my mask, it's too much. And the truth is, you should always wear a mask because it really makes your eyes pop. And I love your eyes. And a local message was street sidewalk stencils. Okay, Seattle, the mask goes over your nose as well. Wear a damn mask. So this is something people would see walking down the street. as they're staring at their phone, probably. Now, what's that look like when you wear the damn mask and it goes over your nose as well? Well, it looks like this. And this is in Los Angeles, sponsored by the California Endowment, reminding us to protect our families, support essential workers, and build a new future. So you can see now how out of home does have gravitas, and it is part of the conversation in so many different ways. The data supports out of home. We were hit hard and we are coming back. The science supports out of home. And all the different messaging out there makes it easy and immediate and robust and available and friendly for brands to communicate to the public what are they doing to pivot and be relevant in the new normal that we're living in. And on a last note, almost last note, a few more slides here, creativity is coming back too. The unique one-off creativity that this medium is known for has not gone away because we're wearing masks. Wearing a mask hasn't stopped us from thinking or appreciating things that are clever, that disrupt our expectation, that create intrigue and make us solve the puzzle. And when we look at it, we're glad to have looked at it. It's earned its right to be there. Now, this example from McDonald's has done just that, with big bites out of a Big Mac, bites out of French fries. And this is McDonald's just by looking at the red container with the yellow stripe. There's no need for the logo. I already know what this is. Literally taking a big bite out of a burger. And perhaps all of this is a metaphor for our desire to just get back to business. I love it that this doesn't refer to COVID or a pivot or curbside pickup or any of those things. It's just creative and smart and fun, and telling us that that part of life, our thinking, our appreciation of creativity, our ability to derive pleasure from looking at something thoughtful and unique and disruptive, that hasn't left us. And we still are who we are at our core. But we can also keep making fun of what's going on out there. Because if you think about it, it is the best time ever to get braces while you're wearing a mask. And and it's okay to laugh at ourselves, make fun of ourselves. The headline here, lavender-scented armpits may cause social distancing violations. So, having fun, being to the point, at street level, not ignoring what's happening, and part of the day-to-day conversation. Because, out of home is always there when something big happens too. Just last night, the LA Lakers won the NBA Finals. They are the champion of the NBA, albeit a very unusual season. And the moment that happened, one of the largest digital screens in the country, owned by Nike, right across the street from Staples Center, where there was no game, but look at all the people standing out in front of Staples Center anyway. And the moment they won, big executions of celebration on these digital signs, people on the street capturing it and sharing it thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of times on Twitter, on Instagram, and other social media. And you can see the second one from the left is a post from King James, LeBron James, 1,343,941 likes. And that image in the background is that big digital screen with hundreds and thousands of people in front of it. So out of home is always about what's happening right here, right now. So we end up where we started, with the word gravitas. And let me read that definition again. It's a presence, a seriousness and importance of manner and form, communication that creates feelings of respect and trust in others. In other words, as I proposed and demonstrated, it's out-of-home media at its best. Out-of-home media when it is essential and relevant to the communities we serve. Out-of-home as the voice of our cities, speaking to the public about what's happening right here, right now. Look, out-of-home is a primary medium. Out-of-home is a way for brands to signal leadership and a belief in our economy. Out-of-home is proof of life. Nothing can do what out-of-home can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick, for showing us all that can be done through outdoor advertising. Let's move to the Q&A tab in the agenda to take questions from our participants.